Pulpitarian Podcast.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. This is Ronald Johnson, Pulpitarian, coming at you again with another episode of Pulpitarian Podcast. This is episode 23, and I am extremely excited about this episode. Why don't you tell us why I'm so excited about this episode, Mr. Announcer Guy?
And now, for our first ever in-studio interview, Pulpitarian Podcast is proud to present Danny Trueblood, Red.Pill.Teacher.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. In studio, Danny Trueblood, Red.Pill.Teacher. Our first ever in-studio interview. A teacher in the government education system with the crazy idea of telling the truth and teaching actual history. How are you doing today, Danny?
I'm doing great. I gotta let you know, though, I was just watching Rocky last night, and so hearing my introduction with that voice and that music, I'm like punching the air here. Excited.
I was hoping that you could live up to that intro, and you did. You did
All
well
right.
there.
All right.
So, Red.Pill.Teacher. How did you come up with this name, Red.Pill.Teacher?
Well, I don't fit the mold of a typical public school teacher, particularly one that teaches history in a public school classroom. And so I open the kids' eyes every day to things they have never heard in their lives. So the usual story, the usual talking points, they hear something totally different from me. And as a kicker, it's all backed up by facts and evidence. Amazing.
Crazy, right? Those pesky facts and evidence, which we don't really get a lot anymore in government education. So what does Red.Pill.Teacher's classroom look like? I am extremely curious.
So you will see a patriotic explosion. Red, white, and blue. We were talking about this earlier, but I only write with red and blue dry erase marker on the board, if it's not on the computer already.
Great.
But I also have some guiding questions when we're analyzing history or analyzing political opinions. And one of the posters I have up is always question. And underneath it, it's always question historical and political opinions, including in the book. Another thing they look at is they see be patient. Facts take time to come out. So I think that's it kind of teaches them first to the story is not right to the story almost all the time.
Oh, yeah, that's very true. Yeah, that's good.
Thank you. That's out. I've got up there, follow the facts. Facts and credible information goes along with the other one. They take a little time. And the big one, I think the biggest disservice that we do to kids in school is we teach them all of our subjects without any context. And I mean, it's such a travesty for kids to learn these things in isolation. So, when we talk about slavery, right? They're like, "Oh, America, yeah, America's horrible." And I'll ask them, "Well, who started slavery?" 90% say America started slavery. Yes, I kid you not.
Oh, God.
So
Okay.
So they get taught these things out of context, and so we go, way back to the history of time. Every civilization known to man, if they want to conquer someone, they got to figure out what to do with the people. They either kill them or they're working for them for free. And one of the big ones, the one I'm a big stickler on, and I'm surprised nobody said anything, but it says feelings can lie. So they have to don't confuse their feelings with the facts. So we talk about a lot of things that can incite feelings of anger. I also give them the example of, some of them are starting to deal with depression and anxiety, or you feel like you don't have any friends, or you feel like you're all alone. And is that really true?
Right.
Right.
Especially with, like, the brain. Well, actually, you know what? What grades do you teach, if I can ask?
Yes, so I am a middle school teacher. So this year...
Oh, geez. Okay, so I was right on target there. I was going to say the brain of a teenager. I went, well, I don't know what he teaches.
Absolutely, you got it. So this year it is 7th and 8th grade. It's been 8th grade exclusively for a few years, but this year I'm excited because they've added a couple civics courses to my schedule. So I'm very, very excited to be able to red pill some kids.
And now, What would this red pilling process look like? Because I know that you're kind of restrained in a way. You just can't run in there and be like, Trump 2020, MAGA, baby.
Yeah, well, I mean, here's a news flash. I mean, every kid in the middle school, they just hate Donald Trump.
Okay.
And when I'll ask him why, well, he's a racist. Well, what's racist? What has he said? Well, you know what he said about Mexicans. Well, no. What has he said about Mexicans? Well, he said they're all rapists. So I was like, I've heard that before. But when I've looked things up and when I always read speeches and anyway, I really do. I always go to primary documents. What did they say and what was the context of it? Which is huge. And I always said, I see where people are what they're talking about, but his words didn't say that at all.
Right.
So can you find it for me? So that's sort of a moment where then they'll start looking, They're
doing their own research.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, that makes sense. And as far as the demographics, you were kind of hinting to it. Are these like middle class students you're teaching, lower class, or? It
is definitely, we are mid to upper 90% below the poverty line.
Oh, wow.
They call it, free and reduced lunch.
Right.
So we are extreme high poverty district.
Okay.
Yes.
And a lot of times what I see, people that grow up in that living condition and that mentality, they're taught to think and talk a certain way. And so that's what you're doing. You're trying to kind of break that cycle, or at the very least get them to think about some things and question what they've been taught for years and years.
Absolutely. I mean, that is my job, to get them to just stop and think about what they're saying. I mean, even something that simple is actually a really huge deal, to stop and think about, well, he's racist. Well, why? Racism has to have evidence behind it. You can't just shut down an argument by saying, well, you're a racist. Okay,
right.
Well, give me the evidence.
Right.
Innocent
until proven guilty.
Yeah, what is that, though?
No. That's stupid. Who does that? So, you've discussed a couple of things about your red pilling methods. What's some other things you do? Walk me through some scenarios that happen in the classroom.
One of my best strategies is these are middle schoolers, Ronald, so they know everything. I mean, everything.
That's right.
Yeah. So what I do, and I've talked about this before in another interview, what I like to do is use that sort of against them. Play into I'm an idiot teacher that has no clue about the world. They get everything. So when they'll bring up something, I'm trying to think. Recently, we were talking about the slave exchange when the new and old world met. Evil Christopher Columbus.
Oh yes,
made his discoveries. Yes, and then we started to have the slave trade, and just asking them what they thought happened. They can't even really articulate it. That, well, if the slaves came from Africa, right?
Right.
And so if they came from Africa, well, how did they get here? So can you so I'll kind of go with, okay, America started it. I got you, and okay, that's interesting. So
who sold the slaves?
Yeah, how did they get here?
Okay,
right,
yeah.
Right. Or again, Christopher Columbus is another one. Again, I've talked about him before too, but Christopher Columbus, he's awful. He's an evil person. Well, okay, well, why? Well, he just killed so many people. I was like, okay, well, tell me about that.
No evidence.
Yeah,
huh?
can you imagine what the explanation I get is like? Well, he was just a bad guy. So he just is.
So moving on, what was your red pill moment, or have you always been conservative? Did you grow up in a conservative household, or what's the deal? Give us a little backstory. Give us the origin.
The origins, yes. Well, the teacher part came naturally. I have a mom who's a teacher, and very early on, she was brainwashing me to become a teacher. We grew up in a small town, so elementary, middle, and high school were connected for a while anyway. And so my mom would say, "Hey, why don't you come down on your break? Just check out my room. She taught like kindergarten, first or second. She was like, "Oh, and well, you're here. Why don't you just teach this?" You know, she'd hand it to him.
No
lesson.
way.
I'd be like, "Okay," you know,
dude,
and so
destiny.
it came pretty natural. But as far as the conservative thinking, so as long as I can remember, I mean, it had to be bought within my lifetime because I'm not ancient, but as long as I can remember, my dad had a Rush Limbaugh book called "See, I Told You So"
Yes.
on the shelf, and you know, about when I got into high school is when he would listen to it. Sometimes he's not a diehard Ditto head,
Right. Oh, he knows
right?
the lingo,
I know
ladies
the
and
lingo,
gentlemen.
yes, because I may be a little bit more of a diehard fan than he is.
I love Rush.
Yeah,
I mean,
so he is honestly my saving grace during the day. So I don't have the luxury to be able to blast him in my speakers. Our rooms are pretty close together at school. So I just, dork alert, read his transcripts. And so my dad and I both
he's
agree.
pushing up his glasses right now that have tape in the middle. So yeah, just adjust your pocket protector too.
Oh yeah, mine needed straightening. Thank you.
Sorry, continue.
I even pantomimed the action.
Yeah, he did. We should have done this in video.
You got to blur my face. I would lose my job.
Oh, that's right.
I would lose my job.
I'd have to blur your face. Are we gonna have to go back with audio and have you talk like? This is where he touched me on the doll.
Well, that's what I thought you were doing with your intro guy until I met him.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't believe how small he was with that voice.
No, Mr. Announcer Guy is an actual person. I mean, did people think that was me this whole time?
I just thought it was something you did to your voice. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
He's a real guy. He's just handed me a beer from the beer fridge.
Here you go, boys.
Yeah, and thank you, because this pumpkin beer has put me over the top right now. So when I listen to this podcast, the beer fridge always makes me very thirsty when you talk about the beer fridge buzzing or a tasty beer you have from it. So
It's part of the show. I mean, we have a humble studio here, so if it comes between good audio and cold beer, I'm just gonna go with cold beer every
yeah,
time.
and I noticed you're actually drinking something a little stronger there.
Yes.
The amber-colored liquid in your glass, right?
This is apple juice.
Yeah, okay, all right, yeah. We'll go with that.
Actually, no, this is a fine scotch. I feel like Ron Burgundy right now, but I've lost control of my show, ladies and gentlemen. It's gone off the
I'm going to
rails.
bring it back to you, okay? I'm going to help you. Okay, so back to my red pill moment. There was not one moment. It was rewinding back to Rush Limbaugh and the "See, I Told You So" book, and so this is the way my dad and I really bonded, because him and I still agree to this day. He is one of the few people. You know, you laugh out loud a lot when you're around other people listening to things or watching a movie,
Right.
But isn't it pretty rare to laugh out loud just by yourself listening to something? Yeah. Rush Limbaugh is one of the few guys that makes me laugh out loud when I actually just read what he said. Donald Trump's another one too.
Yes.
Some of the things he says, man. Some of the things, yeah.
President Trump has a really good sense of humor, and I think it gets lost in a lot of people, like especially the left side of the aisle, because they're just so blinded with rage. I'm like, folks, obviously he's joking when he said that, you know, like, oh, maybe the Russians have Hillary's
right,
emails.
right,
And
classic,
see,
man.
Russia has Hillary's emails. And I'm, oh my God. Anyway.
So my favorite was the debate line, like, should we something about trusting him in office, or I wouldn't, and he said, because you'd be in jail.
Oh God.
I mean, I've laughed about that for like the last year. Well, longer than a year ago, but for a year after it, I couldn't wait. Someone would share it, and it would just always cause me great joy and laughter. Yeah.
The because you'd be in jail moment. That's like one of those great political moments, like hearkening back to the days of like Reagan and Carter going, "There you go again," or something like that. I mean, which totally blew "There you go again" away. I mean, you know, just he's got like good just comedic chops and everything. So you grew up kind of in a conservative household. Sounds like you're a Rush baby.
Yeah, I think that would classify me. So this was another thing too. I went to a very liberal college.
And you survived.
And I survived. And you know, the trick for me was, you know, when you go to a liberal state school and you're in education, I spent one of my whole teaching education courses listening to a guy rail on Reagan's education director, literally the whole semester. And this guy was such a bully. If you would say anything, he would just like verbally beat you down. And so I did the best thing that I could ever do. I wrote exactly what he wanted, got an A, and none of it stayed in my head.
Oh my! See, you swerved into exactly what I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you what that curriculum looked like, because I'm assuming that the education curriculum, well, if it was liberal then, I'm assuming it's only gotten worse. So yeah, walk us through that. What did that look like? So you just had basically a Marxist professor up there.
Though I can't really say the whole thing was like that. And honestly, I started at a private school before that. I actually double majored. I don't know if you know that about me.
Ooh.
But yeah, I'm a pretty smart guy. But I was only
Beauty
at the
and brains.
and humility. Yeah. No, it was a mixture of a lot of that liberal ideology mixed in. Many of my classes were not as overt as that, I will say. Today, I think, is a different story with what they're teaching the students in the college classes. I've had some in my room as interns or whatever.
Oh, yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, of course you have interns that come in like fresh with their education degree. And oh my gosh, how much of a treat is that?
Well, I mean, I'm nice. Okay, I'm a nice guy. They typically will just come in and need just a few hours. They here where we live, they make you have an additional certification to like actually be official to have like a student long-term teacher. Right. And so I'm not interested at all in advancing my education in that way. So it sort of stops at a point. So
okay.
And this was really fun too, because I was in college when 9/11 happened. Oh. And even before that. So I went to a George W. rally when I was in college. And it was the greatest experience of my life. I had a couple college buddies, and we had our again, this is obviously before September 11th, but we had our signs in our apartment yard and in our window, like, for Bush,
Yeah.
And so we took a lot of ridiculing for that, but we didn't care,
Dude, that's impressive. It's just, I mean, I can't even imagine being a conservative on a college campus now. So speaking of liberalism, how are the teachers' unions, and are you a part of one?
I'm surprised you have to ask me that. So the answer is a resounding no.
Okay.
The state I used to live in, you were not forced to be in it, but you had to pay your fair share. And
so you had to pay dues even if you didn't?
Yes. You had to pay into the teachers union, but you could allocate I can't remember what they called it, but basically your political money part of the union to any one of the given organizations. I think one was Red Cross. And so now you and I both live in Florida.
Yes. The penis of America.
That's right.
You're welcome. The keys of the whiz.
Yeah. Being in Florida, we are a wonderful right-to-work state.
Okay.
So that means I get a choice to not have to pay money into the union. Yes, it's a wonderful thing. However, what I've noticed is the teachers union, particularly in our area, our county, has a stranglehold. They are in the new teacher trainings. They are like allocated a bunch of time. And so while I wasn't a new teacher when I moved here, you still had to go to the orientation courses. And it literally was like a 1 hour scare you to death to get into the teachers union, because you were gonna be sued.
There's lawsuits.
You were gonna left all alone. And then, to make matters worse, you go to your school and there is a couple of union bullies that are, the representatives at your school. And I was like literally cornered by this lady when I first started working there. She was like, well, Danny, I noticed you haven't joined the teacher union. And I was like, yeah, it's that or pay my light bill, And,
dude, good deflection.
Yeah, well, it didn't, no. It didn't like stop her or didn't phase her one bit. She was like, well, where we teach, you really need the union. And I'm going to be honest with you. If it's between you and someone else who's in the union and you need my help, I'm going to have to choose the union person.
Oh, dang.
So, I mean, and that was repeated at the district meetings as well. Like, we'll help everyone, but if you're in the union, you're going to get our first priority.
Oh my gosh.
And there's other subtle things that they do too. I don't know how this is across the different states. I can only speak for here. I never noticed this where I was from before. But they will offer teacher trainings where you can get your, as a teacher, I have to continue my education as far as getting professional development points.
Right.
They will offer little workshops and seminars with a good amount of development points, and they're free if you're in the union. But if you're not, it's honestly like $250 an hour.
What?
Yeah, so I called on one, and they were, well, are you a union member? And I was like, no. And they're like, okay, so it'll be $500 for this 2-hour meeting. I was like, okay, no, thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, how about that?
So is where you're at, like the educational system, is it the administrators that you would say are more liberal, or is it the teachers and you're just like one of the few out there? Or are there conservative teachers and they're just getting bullied and you're one of the few that kind of finds ways to stand out? I asked you a 5-part question.
Yes, I noticed that. I was like, wait a minute, what am I going to answer first? And how will I remember this? I didn't come prepared with a pencil.
I'm going to throw him a notepad, so
yeah.
hold on.
No, we'll just fumble through it here. So there is a definite thread of liberalism, and there's a definite thread of like, it's okay to badmouth the president. It's okay to be negative about conservative ideas. It's just the normal. Like, I was at a training Monday, and this was all of the district social studies people. And I mean, we're walking into these classes and they're just like assuming, they're just like laughing and talking with me and just assuming with these things with Kavanaugh and these things with like different things about President Trump that are super negative. They're just assuming
that you're on board.
Oh, that I'm right on board with them, and then I'm going to pat him on the back. And so typically that's not the time to like have the fight, you
Right.
know? I mean, it's not going to change anyone's mind. And so typically I just sort of smile and nod and go on my own way.
Yeah,
So.
there's some fights aren't worth having, and I can't imagine that being one of them.
Well, my biggest weapon, okay, I will say this. My biggest weapon at school, in my classroom, is primary documents. That is, documents written by the people who history is about. So, as you know, in our history, in American history, our founders were God-fearing men. They were very educated. They talked and were extremely eloquent with what they talked. In fact, so much so that we're all a little... I'm putting most of us, even me, a little too stupid to actually understand what they wrote the first time. So you have to kind of dig into it. So
They
imagine
used words goodly.
Yeah, they use words really goodly.
Okay.
So we've been dumbed down quite a bit, and I think school has played a part in that. By the way, in the dumbing down of our nation's children and how they learn and the backwards way they like to teach things. Like I was saying, my biggest weapon is those primary documents. And it's funny because one of the biggest things you're evaluated on as a social studies teacher, it's also called social studies, history, civics, world history, whatever it is that you're teaching, is the use of primary documents to get it's strange because you want to get them to wrestle with these early documents. And I'm one of the few teachers that does. So we're in my classroom talking about God is giving us our natural rights because that's what these men said.
That's what it said, yeah.
And every once in a while I'll get, well, Mr. Trueblood, like, we're not supposed to talk about God at school. Like, well, this is history class, right? And we're learning our history. So yeah, we have to talk about this. And a lot of the ideas that our founders put forth are just strikingly conservative in nature.
Crazy, right?
Yeah. So honestly, as I'm teaching, the few kids who I can get their attention for a few minutes, yeah, right. It's becoming. I can tell you after doing this for 15 years, it is getting worse.
Do you have to just like clap your hands, make loud noises?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't know. It's something new every day. If I had hair, I would light it on fire, and they still would be like, meh. I want to play Fortnite. Where's my phone? Yeah. So this is my life, But It's very interesting because they're not used to hearing that. They don't know. They just don't know our history. They've learned so many things, like I said before, out of context, and it's awful. You shouldn't learn anything in isolation out of context because everything has a greater context, particularly history.
Right. Actually, I'm gonna ask you this, and you can refuse if you want, because it's a little bit conspiracy theory.
All right.
Do you think that the dumbing down of America and in our education system, in your humble opinion as a teacher, do you think it's happening on purpose?
Well, the short answer would be yes. I think there is a little more involved. I think there are still people that are concerned, that are mixed in there, that are concerned that our kids are actually learning things. And even the people that create the curriculum, like I think they have a serious agenda, and it's become more and more clear. Even with the textbooks, man. Geesh, these things.
Yeah, how do you deal with that?
They stay on the shelf.
Okay.
You know, if I'm gone, I'll sign like a chapter review or something to do in the book, and then I have to go back and be like, hey, you know, when the book said this, look back in history. Here's what actually happened. You know.
Right.
I do think it's on purpose. You know, and I know a lot of those theories swirl around the Common Core, and I think
That's the next thing I was going to ask you.
Yeah, I think if you, if you trace the money, you can make some. I mean, I think that's. What do you want to know about the root of anything? Follow the money, honestly.
Oh yeah, true.
So I mean, I think you can make some arguments that there are some things in there on purpose. So yeah, so I'll just leave it as that because that's probably the best I can give you for an answer right now for this interview.
Okay, all right, makes sense to me.
Yeah.
So you swerved me into Common Core. What are your feelings on Common Core? Is it the great Satan, or are you kind of middle of the road, or what?
Yeah. So the great thing about teaching history is
you don't have to deal with Common Core.
Yes, is that I am pretty well disconnected. No, actually, I'm not sure many people would actually know that it doesn't encompass, everything. I mean, there are national curriculum standards for social studies, and Florida has their own sunshine standards, they call them, or whatever. You know, I should probably pay more attention to that. Me teaching, but I will tell you.
Well, I know where we rank, so maybe you don't have to pay attention to the sunshine standard. I don't know.
Well, so I will tell you, I have had experience in teaching math and language, actually both, which is where they're super heavy. Particularly math, I think, is where people get a little weirded out. And I was, strangely enough, back in my earlier years of teaching, taking some courses to get some sort of math and science graduate degree. I stopped that pretty quickly, but it was right in the middle of when all the stuff with Common Core was happening, and we had the professor was very on board with that movement. And so the way they were talking about solving the math problems was really weird. So to me, though, I'm not 100% sold that it is like the Satan. So there are some things about the Common Core math. There are certain strategies that they will encourage that actually I think some people get mad at because they're just not used to solving it that way.
Yeah.
But I think, now this is not a generalization about all of the Common Core because I think a lot of it is total garbage.
Okay.
But I think some of the math actually helps you to understand why you're doing the things that you do in math. You don't just do it because you memorized it. Yeah, so as a teacher, you're always looking to hustle for a little extra cash. And so sometimes there'll be tutoring that you can do available. And so last year I decided I would take a couple hours a week and tutor some third graders in their math. You know, how hard is third grade math? Come on, right?
Yeah, I could.
Yeah. You could probably do it, yeah?
Probably.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm working a problem on the board. Some of the kids are doing things in their group on a computer, and some of the kids are like in a small group with me, and I'm just teaching away. I'm writing down the old stack method for adding, 17 plus 5, and you're writing the 5 under the 7. Mr. Trueblood, my teacher said if we did that and we put that on our paper that we'd get it wrong.
What?
Yeah. So here's what we have to do, and I was like. See, so you get it wrong if you write it that way. Yeah, we get it wrong. So
It's like the classic algebraic thing where it's like, okay, I know what this is. No, you have to do it this way. But why if I know it's this?
Yeah, exactly. So I think what they want you to do is like to round up to 10 and then subtract from the end.
Right.
Which is really weird. I mean, you do have to understand numbers to be able to say, oh, 17's close to 20. And then if I had 20 and 5, that's easy. That's 25. And then I can take away the 3.
Right.
It's a very long process, but I mean, it does show you understand what you're doing, I suppose. You get good number sense.
So I've seen a little bit of the Common Core and what I've seen on, and like I said, maybe it's what you're talking about. Maybe I'm just like an old dog, and I'm like, what are all these numbers and estimatings on here when you can just carry the one?
Yeah.
So a lot of that Common Core is based on kind of like estimation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, rounding, estimation, it's just understanding. And then when it gets into fractions, I mean, it is really difficult to understand what dividing 2 fractions means.
Oof.
It's so much easier just to, remember, flip the reciprocal and multiply.
Right.
Yeah, but then, you have to sort of understand why are you doing that. So,
geez.
I mean, that's sort of, I think, the reason, the push, how they can sell it, that, hey, we just want our kids to understand the math,
Are they pushing you more? This has nothing to do with anything. Are they pushing you more towards the metric system? Like, not you, but teachers in general?
I haven't noticed it.
Okay.
Again, I'm
America.
not like dated. I know, right? I love it that we're the only country in the world that has our, standard units of measurement.
I have a shirt that you've probably seen. It's got the astronaut, and it's like there's 2 kinds of countries in the world. Those that use the metric system and those that have landed on the moon.
Yes.
It's like my favorite.
It is so much simpler if you were to have learned that from a kid, but it's a foreign language to look at. Wait a minute. Oh, it's all in tens. This should be simple, but what's a kilometer again in miles?
Yeah. Or like, I did some trips to Australia and they're trying to tell me how many liters of gas this gets. And I'm like, I don't know liters.
Yeah, I've been to Australia too.
Have you?
I think we've talked about this before, possibly. Mm-hmm. Because I know you have a buddy over there.
I do.
Down under.
Yeah, down under.
Yeah. I thought you said his name.
I did not.
Oh, okay. Just the down under.
No, just down under.
Okay. I was looking for hints to find out is this Billy Ronald or not. Okay.
I am a shadowy group. You were just not going to find out anything about me.
Yeah. So no, I spent like 3 weeks there when I was in high school, and I was just angry the whole time about kilometers, and it doesn't make any sense to me.
Like, the older people over there, like if you talk to them, like, oh yeah, we were raised on feet and inches. Oh god, that was like Cockney British. What the hell?
It was great. We did the whole interview in that.
Yeah.
That would be, I think, super entertaining for your whole audience.
Yeah, I'll just go back and right up the apple and pears. It became like a British nanny instead of Australian. Sorry to my Australian listeners. I know I've got one for sure. Yeah. Jeez. Okay. So on a serious note, even though
good luck.
Yeah.
Good luck.
The future of our American education system. Where are we heading? What's happening? How does that look to you?
It looks a lot like public schools will be not the answer. My answer is homeschooling. Mm-hmm. If you are a parent, God has given you everything you need to educate your children. People have been doing it for thousands and thousands of years without needing the government.
What?
Yeah. We also have a wonderful Supreme Court nominee who has ruled in favor of grants for charter schools and those sorts of things as well, which has brought him into very, very, very strong opposition to the NEA, the National Educators Association Union. Yes.
Oh, yes, our lovely NEA. We could do a whole podcast on that, I'm sure.
Yeah, if you pay any attention to some of the things I've posted, they're a little wordy maybe. Posted on Instagram, there are lots of opportunities on the NEA's website. I would recommend it for a good comedy read. I mean, you really have to dig in to find the really good juicy bits. Yeah, you have to be a little nerdy like me. When I read my Rush Limbaugh transcripts,
right.
On one window, up comes the NEA thing on the other window. But I mean, there's lots of really easy ways that the NEA makes you do mindless political action. Big red buttons that say "click here," and we will write a letter to your senator for you with your name on it.
Oh my gosh, that's ridiculous. I cannot believe that's what we've come to in this country. But here we are.
Here we are.
And that's why the public school teacher is homeschooling his kids.
Yes,
you know when they
absolutely.
say stay in school? Mr. T meant stay in homeschool.
Yeah, that's right.
I pity the fool that goes to public school.
That was pretty good. I mean, it definitely topped your British nanny Australian accent. That was not bad. Not bad.
Got a calling.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, that's a whole new podcast for you.
That's
Yeah.
right. Just impressions only.
And hey, by the way, Ronald, so he didn't know I was going to do this, but I got to toot your horn a little bit. I've known this guy for quite a while now. And so, you know, sometimes there's some musical background, maybe not the beginning, but sometimes there's some musical backgrounds, right?
Yes.
I think you might know the musician that plays to some of those. Yes, it is your host, truly, right here in station. I'm surrounded, in fact, by a number of guitars, amps. This guy will rock your socks off. I played with him on more than one occasion. He is quite the talented musician.
Well, thank you. I'm all red in the face now.
Yeah, I can see you beaming.
Yeah, that's me doing a lot of the musical intros and outros. So yeah, dude, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank
I mean,
you.
he's known as Ronnie Rock. Okay, not really. I just made that up. But that's a nice ring to it, Ronnie Rock.
Yeah, I think we should just go with that.
Yeah, okay.
See if it catches on. Yeah. And since I've got you in studio, not ready to get rid of you just yet. So
I'm not ready to leave.
well, perfect. Here we are.
You may even have to give me another beer. That pumpkin beer was...
Oh, dude. Oh, the pumpkin beer is called Gord's Gone Wild, by the way.
Yeah, so quick plug.
Yeah.
If you want to sponsor, you know, give him a little money. This is from the Tampa Bay Brewing Company, Gord's Gone Wild Pumpkin Ale. It's quite tasty.
It really is.
And I'm in like the totally fall mood right now.
Oh, totally. Oh, we'll get you another pumpkin beer. Don't you worry, my friend.
Right.
But you know, I'm not gonna like keep you as long as, let's say, Rob from Blue Eye Mafia podcast would keep you. I mean, I'm not gonna keep you for 3 hours and make you go yeah, while he pontificates.
Hey, listen, he is a great guy. I have nothing but good things to say about that man.
I really do too. Rob, you're a good guy.
He is a great man.
I know you're listening. I had to give you a dig because you're like, oh, I got Red.Pill.Teacher first. I'm like, oh, but I got him in studio, bitch. So what's up?
Dude, not only did you impersonate him well, you did yourself perfectly there.
That's exactly how I sound when I don't have all these vocal modulators on. And, like, here, I'll turn it off. Hey, all right. Dude, the show just went off the rails.
Yeah, we're coming back. Okay.
We're coming back, ladies and gentlemen.
Because I'll start singing like Ozzy, going off the rails on a crazy train, man, right now.
We have a lot of guitars here. We could just make it happen. So, news of the day, since I have you here. So, like I said, I wasn't ready to let you go yet. So, news of the day. How do you feel about the whole Judge Kavanaugh situation?
Well, I mean, we shouldn't just go back to high school. I mean, we need to get back to like when he was a toddler. I mean, what was that guy doing, you know? And honestly, I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of other toddlers that have a good memory of him, like pushing somebody or, you know, an elbow to the face here and there. Like, honestly, we need to start doing this more. I'm really excited about it.
He stole some animal crackers and some
Oh,
juice.
totally.
You know he did.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. You can just tell by looking at the guy, right?
Yeah. I mean, he is a white male, so I'm sure that he was up to something.
Oh, for sure. I mean, his privilege has just gotten him where he is. That's it, you know?
Had nothing to do with that law degree or all those years of school. But yeah, anyway. I find it sickening that we have an active chair of the DNC who has literally beaten his girlfriend, and there's like police reports and all of this evidence, and everybody's quiet about that. And you've got this 35-year-old allegation from a college professor just out of the blue that said 35 years ago he did this, and everybody that she said that she has as witnesses are like, no.
Right.
I don't even remember that party.
Yeah,
What are you talking
mean,
about? It's just the hypocrisy just kills me.
It's crazy. I mean, you've got a smart audience. I'm sure they're listening to you. So,
obviously,
yeah, of course. I mean, we could honestly go through how absolutely ridiculous and everything's sort of backfiring in her face. Like her friend being on live interview on CNN of all places saying, yeah, so I know that it's happening, but no, not with him. No, not with Kavanaugh. I didn't ever remember that.
Speaking of which, what about the CNN interview where the lady's asking, she has the panel of 5 ladies there.
Oh,
and
yeah.
she's like, raise your hand if you think Judge Kavanaugh is innocent. And they all raise.
Every one of them, man. I don't even know how that got past their editor.
I know. I'm like, you guys really should have vetted this.
Yeah.
I mean, I was actually surprised that they went ahead and let it roll.
I mean, they're losing their, like, what do they have, like 300 viewers left? I mean, they're losing credibility there, man. Seriously. So, hey, it's not the same thing, viewers, but Ronald, you've got a number of followers in like a relatively short time. Mm-hmm. What are you at right now for your podcast?
The podcast, I am up to a few hundred.
Nice.
And I'm actually, you know what? I'm at just around 500 and something.
Dang.
Yeah. So,
congratulations, man.
Thank you. I thought I was going to have 3. So, not 100, like 3.
Yeah, right.
Dude, yeah. Thanks for asking.
Yeah, and also, let's talk about that Instagram account. I mean, it is like kicking butt and taking names, man.
Yeah, we're getting up to 2,200 followers now. I think you may have that by the end of the weekend.
You cheat a little bit.
Well, how?
You cheat a little bit with those pictures. The Instagram babes. I think that's a little bit cheating. I mean,
if you put some babes on your wall, you'd get some fun. Yeah. When I was telling my wife about the political Instagram account, and I was like, I've got to tell her about the babes, obviously.
Of course.
She's totally cool either way, but I was like, obviously, I got to, tell her what's going on here. And I'm like, okay, so you see all the red, white, and blue bikini babes on here? I'm doing this for eyeballs. And, like, I had, like, this whole speech prepared and everything. Right. And she cut me off, and she was like, hey, chicks like to look at hot chicks.
Yeah.
She was like, hot chicks are the universal language. And I'm like, I love you. Yeah. Okay.
And hey, Ronald's not joking. He married up. She's an amazing lady. She
is.
I did too. I mean,
you did.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah.
But, we're going to give her a big head. So let's just.
I mean, did she listen to you though?
My wife, if it's Trump heavy, then no. But she'll probably listen since you're on the interview.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, hello, Ronald's wife.
Yeah. Mrs. Publitarian.
Yeah, Mrs. Publitarian, nice.
You're looking fine today. I'm going to throw a little Barry White in here, I think, and just mix it.
Come on, full impression. Let's get it.
That's right, baby. The love doctor's coming for you.
Wait a minute, is that typo negative?
It was almost Dr. Claw from Inspector Gadget.
Yeah, I think they're the same person.
They might be. My wife's too young anyway. She's not going to know who Barry White is.
Maybe any of those. Dr. Claw.
I don't know Dr. Claw either. Any of those stuff.
If you have a fan that knows who typo negative is,
yes.
that would be actually amazing.
Black, number 1. What? Where did that? I'm gonna have to cut that out. You do know the song though, right? That I'm singing.
Yes, of course.
Oh, okay,
of course. Right, my favorite is "Summer Breeze." Their cover of that one.
I don't know if I know that one.
Well, you're gonna have to play it.
Okay, "Summer Breeze" coming up. I'm gonna have to pay for some royalty rights, and here we go. So, TMZ gotcha moment for you here. Now we're gonna really hit hard here.
What's that guy's name? Harvey something?
Yeah.
Lip.
As a teacher, like, what's one of your worst experiences, or like having like a confrontation with a kid or something like that? Something that like really gonna give me some like TMZ red meat here to close us out.
Yeah. I mean, there have been literal moments, and this has been more. Teaching today, you have to lock it down in your room. You have to set a strong discipline policy, particularly when we're dealing with like upper middle school, especially the middle schoolers that are there 3 more years than they should be.
Right.
Like kids with full beards and, I mean.
What kind of beard oil do you use?
Right.
Can you hook me up?
Right. So I mean, you've really got to lock that down. And when anybody sort of puffs up a little bit in the class, like I'm right at them. Like I try not to let that stuff go on in my class. I have had some like out of control moments sort of at the beginning of the year where it's like a movie, where you'll come in this, especially when you've been like, you're new to a building or something, the kids just don't know you. You haven't earned any kind of reputation with them. And, all right, guys, let's start class. And then nobody flinches and they're all just still talking, like the typical like inner city ghetto movie school. Like,
messed up, AA, Ron.
Oh my, exactly. Total moments like that. And total moments where I've got, just people just like going crazy in class, standing up, screaming out, not refusing to leave. Some of the videos you see. I mean, it hasn't gotten that intense, but I mean, there's been some moments like in the hallways. This full on UFC. Like I had to this guy like. This was a few years back, but I mean, he had this boy in a full locked in like rear naked choke, like from the UFC, man. Wow. Totally, like they were at it. The kid he had in the chokehold turning red. I'm on the ground with him, which I could totally get in trouble for, but I can't like not jump in and like
do
save
something.
A kid. Right, you have to. And I'm not, you wouldn't call me a small guy.
This guy's jacked, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry he's taken, ladies, but he's a handsome man and he's jacked. So
I'm not. I wouldn't describe myself as that, but I would say I'm definitely not the smallest. I'm not the tallest in my classes. Many students are much taller than me, but I'm on the floor with this guy and he is like just locked in, the forearm, elbow pulled back, chokehold. This kid's like running out of breath. His face is turning red. And I'm just like everything I got ratcheting the kid off of him. So, yeah. And then, I was, had a great entrance into teaching too. I had, I started out with little pups. I started with like the 4th grade. Mm-hmm. And I had a couple of big middle schoolers. One of them was put in my room. They got in a fight. And out of nowhere, this other kid runs in, dumps the table on him. He's in my room, so I just grab this kid and walk him out of the room. Not in my class, not in my school. This kind of thing. Wow. I mean, this was a full on cops at the school before they had these resource officers in there. And I walk him around the other corner, and then the principal's got the other person involved, like laying on the ground, and then they all start going back at it. So. Yeah, there's been some moments. Fortunately, I don't play that very, very, in my classroom. I try to keep it locked down. I try to figure out what's going to make him diffuse. Mm-hmm. And most of the time it's I try not to be in their face. I try to be logical, give them choices and natural consequences, but sometimes you got to get up in their face and be like, "Look, this isn't happening in my room." So,
wow.
Yeah.
Dude, you just got to back them right down. Like,
yeah, I mean, I have some, I would love to have a replay sometimes in my classroom. I've had a kid like chasing someone in my room that wouldn't stop. And I did this incredible move. I don't know where it was like a heavenly move where, I got her distracted and the other kid, I was falling behind. And I just moved this desk right behind me. And the person that was chasing this other kid, I don't even remember if there was a guy or a girl or whatever, was so laser focused on where they were going, they didn't even notice I put the desk in front of them. And they like totally toppled over the desk. And it was like one of the moments all the kids in the class were like, "Oh, Mr. Trueblood, oh my gosh, what a move."
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's like a behind the back sweet pass, in basketball. It was like, throw the desk over there.
That's great.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even imagine that. I mean, here I am, the old fart pontificating again. But, like, dude, if I had tried that with any teacher, back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, like, I had a teacher that, got mad at a kid one day and dumped the kid and his whole desk over.
Oh, yeah.
And it was just like, no, whoom, over. You're out. Bye. And he'd throw crap at people and everything. I can't even imagine, a teacher doing that now.
Yeah, no, you'd be done for. But to be 100% honest with you, there are a lot of things that happen in the schools and in the classes where I teach. But, yeah, I keep a lot of it out of my room, fortunately. Mm-hmm. So the worst thing that's happened to me recently is I had this. I'm just has to say it like it is. She was like a full-on sociopath already. It's horrible. 8th grade. Turn on the tears, would tell a lie about me, and like, and the whole thing. And fortunately, my administrators always know, like, my room's always under control.
Yeah,
they know
you're
me
rock
well
solid.
enough. Yeah, they know me well enough. But girl comes in filming me, FaceTiming with her mom, camera pointed at me from the moment she walked in the room. And, I was like, I knew what was going on. I totally knew what was going on. I was like, you know the rule about phones, you can't have them. She walked right by me, and so I'm trying to teach and she's pointing it at me, so I'm stepping out of the room. I can't get a hold of the office. I'm trying to call them on my cell phone. She's got the phone on me the whole time. And so, fortunately, I have a great principal right now, and mom was just livid that she got in trouble for that. I mean, that's an invasion of their privacy. All the kids in the class, you can't do that.
Oh my gosh.
And so, fortunately, this is rare, but the principal sort of cut the mom off. Didn't let her come and talk to me. And but man, you got to watch yourself. At least kids have phones; they're recording. You've got to be on your game.
Oh my gosh, I can't even imagine that. Best behavior at all times. Jeez.
With the worst behavior coming at you.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh, dude, you need to get some hazard pay.
Seriously, yes, I do. I agree 100%.
Wow. Well, this has been a blast, honestly.
Yeah, when can I come back?
You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say, hey, when do you want to come back on the show? Now, where can my listeners and followers learn more about you?
Well, right now they can learn more about me on Instagram, Red.Pill.Teacher. I am on as much as I can be. I try to share a lot of school-related things. It's not as, you find out you don't get as many little hearts when you share a little more like heady stuff, you know? Right. So I always am tempted to share the occasional meme, so...
For all of my Gen Z aged school listeners, you need to follow this guy.
Yeah,
this guy's legit.
It's worth the read to see what's happening, and so I try to do a nice mixture of NEA garbage, and I try to do a nice mixture of there's a great book called Crimes of the Educators, and actually a close personal friend of mine co-wrote that book, and he goes through, and I've started them on my Instagram feed. He goes through 6 or 7 crimes that have been committed by the curriculum design educators, and so I've started to like name the crimes on my post, and then got sidetracked by other funny things that I saw.
Right.
Yeah.
And the name of the book again, just so I'm sure that we have it and we're clear?
Yeah, so it's called Crimes of the Educators, co-authored by Alex Newman.
Okay.
And blanking on the other name, but
okay.
Look it up.
Yeah,
it's actually a free download on PDF if you're interested.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Well, I think that will do it for us here at Publitarian Podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening, and thank you, Danny Trueblood, Red.Pill.Teacher, for being my first in-studio interview.
It was my pleasure.
All right, guys, we will talk to you later.